Hello students. Today in Understanding Data chapter, we are going to discuss how to apply statistical techniques like mean, median and mode for processing the data, and also the measures of variability like range and standard deviation and how to apply those functions in data processing. So that we will be discussing in today's class. So now we are going to see how to apply the statistical techniques for processing the data. So once we collect the data, we have to process it. So data processing is much needed to get a proper information about the data, right? So to convert it into a useful information, we have to process it. So processing the data here, we are going to apply three different techniques. One is mean, median and then mode. So these things comes under the statistics actually. So how we are going to apply this mean, median and mode, that is what we are going to discuss in today's class. Actually, summarization methods, these are also called as the summarization methods, which is actually applied on the tabular data. So summarizing means collectively as a whole data if we have in the table, how do we summarize it to get a common result? So that is what is called the measures of central tendency. Yes, it gives you some idea regarding the data. And when it comes to mean, median and mode, so mean represents the average value. Yes, and then median represents the middle value and the mode represents the frequency of occurrence. That is how many number of times a particular value has been repeated in a sequence. That represents the mode. So let's see one by one regarding mean, median and mode. So first of all, mean. Mean, if you consider, it is actually the average of numeric values. So average means what we will do usually, we will add up all the numbers together and then we will divide it with the total number of values. So that is what is called as average, right? So that is what is called as mean here. So mean is also called as the average. So for example, to understand more about this, just consider the weight of 40 students. 40 students are there in a class and we are about to find out the weight of all the 40 students. And in case if we have the weight of all the 40 students in a class, instead of looking at each data of the student, we can calculate the average to get an idea about the average weight of all the students in that class. So if we add all the weight of the students and when we find the average, we can get an idea about what is the approximate average of all the students in the class, right? And then see, look at this example. Here they have given one more example regarding height. So height in centimeter has been given of the students in the class. So like 90, 102, 110. So certain set of data has been given. So mean means you have to find out the average height of the class. So we have to add all these data together and finally when you divide it by the total number of values which you have here, you will get the average. So that represents a mean. But actually it is not a suitable choice if there are some outliers in the data. So outliers are nothing but exceptionally very large or small value. That is, some people may be very tall and some people may be very short. So in those data are called as, those data are considered as outliers. In that case, mean will not be much preferable. Clear? So in that case, we have to go with some of the statistical techniques. So let's see the next concept regarding median. So median means, I have already told you, which is the middle value. Yes, the middle value from the set of values, that is called a median. So it is actually computed for a single attribute or a variable at a time. Yes, when all the values are sorted in ascending or descending order, that particular middle value, we have to arrange all the values in either ascending or descending order. It's our wish. And after arranging everything in an order, the middle value from the set of values is called the median. Yes, where only when you have the odd number of values, you will be able to find out the middle position in the set of values. By looking at an example, you will understand. And the median also represents the central value. If it is mean, I have told you, it is called average. A mean is also called as average, I have told you. Similarly, median is also called as a central value or the middle value, where the given data is equally divided into two parts. Look at this example. Here, once you have been given the data, you have to sort it in ascending or descending order. That is the first step we have to do. After arranging it in ascending or descending order, we have to find how many number of values are present in the
sequence. So totally here 9 values are present. So it is an odd number, and and it is easy for us to find out the middle value, right? So the median is at the value, the median is the value at position 5. If you see here, to the left of 1 or 2 you have only 4 values, to the right of 1 or 2 you have only 4 values. So which is the middle value here? 1 or 2. So 1 or 2 centimeter is the middle value that is considered as the median value here. So which is the actual central value. Yes, we will divide into two different parts. One sequence will be divided into two different parts, and the middle value is considered as the median. Now, mode. So, mode means the frequency of occurrence. How many times a particular value has been repeated in a sequence, that represents a mode. So, value that appears the most number of times in an attribute. In an attribute means in a column. So, in a column, how many times a value has been repeated, that represents a mode. Clear? Then, if you look at this example, and especially this mode, if you see, it can be found for numeric as well as non-numeric data. So look at this example. In this list of height of students, mode is 110. So how do they say that mode is 110, as its frequency of occurrence in the list is 3? If you look at this previous example, try to find out 110, how many times it has been repeated. 1, 2 and 3. 3 times it has been repeated. So the mode value is 110. So how many number of times a particular value has been repeated, that will be taken into account. That is the maximum number. Clear? So here even 90 also has been repeated for 2 times, but here 110 has been repeated for 3 times. So 110 will be taken into account. So mode is 110, as its frequency of occurrence in the list is 3, which is larger than the frequency of the rest of the values. Compared to the other values, 110 has been repeated more than the other numbers. That is why 110 is considered as the answer. Yes, then measures of variability. So measures of variability, actually it refers to the spread or variation of the values around the mean. So mean means average, I have told you. So mean is considered as the average, and around the mean, how the values are being spread, or variation, what is the variation around the values, that is what we are going to discuss. These are also called as measures of dispersion. So measures of dispersion in a data set. Actually, it indicates the difference within the group. Yes, so let's see what concepts we are going to apply here. So some of the common measures of dispersion which we use here are range and standard deviation. So when it comes to range, a range is actually the difference between the maximum and the minimum number, or the minimum values from the set of data. So that represents a range. And when it comes to range, it can be calculated only for the numerical data. So a range you can calculate only for the numerical data, because it is a measure of dispersion and tells you how about the coverage or the spread of data values. For example, just consider the salaries of employees, the marks of a student, or the price of toys. Yes, all these things, if you consider, the range is usually calculated based on the two extreme values. So salary of employee means which employee has got the highest mark, and which employee has got the highest salary, and who has got the lowest salary. So two different extremes we have. Similarly, if you consider the marks of the student, the highest mark and the least mark will be considered. So two different extremes are there, no? So like that, you can the range will be considered. So range, from the word itself you can understand the highest, the lower limit and the upper limit. Yes, so usually when we find out a range in Python also, what we will do, when we use the range function in for loop, so we will set a limit. Yes, the starting number and the ending number we will provide, right? So that represents a range. The same we are going to use here. But here what we will do is we will subtract the maximum number and the minimum number. Yes, so if you see here, look at this example. For example, if we have the minimum height of a height value in a class as 85 centimeter and the maximum height value in a class is 115 centimeter, we will subtract the minimum number from the maximum number. Yes, m minus s, that is maximum minus minimum. So 115 minus 85, if you do, you will get as 30 centimeter. That will be considered as the range. Clear? Then standard deviation. So standard deviation actually refers to the difference within the group, whereas range refers to the difference between maximum and minimum, whereas standard deviation refers to difference within the group or a set of data of a variable that represents a standard deviation. And to calculate the standard deviation, we use here certain formulas. See here, sigma is equal to sigma I equal to 1 to n xi minus x bar the whole power 2 divided by n. So what do we do here is, in standard deviation, the smaller values means data are less spread, whereas a larger value refers to data are more spread. So to calculate the standard deviation, we need the positive square root of the average of square difference. So when you look at the example, you will understand much better. This is the formula which we have to apply to find out the standard deviation from a tabular data. So just consider these three columns. Actually, if we have the height of the students in a particular class, consider this as x in centimeter. Yes, consider these values as x. So what do we have to do here is, very first step, we have to find out the average, that is mean we have to find out. So we have to add up all these values, and when you divide by the total number of values, which is 9, you will get 101.33. Yes, now this will be considered as x bar. Yes, this is the average. Now, the second step, what do we have to do? According to the formula, we have to find out. First, we have to find out x minus x bar. So, x minus x bar, you have to generate a separate column. And x minus x bar, the whole square, that we have to find out over here. This is the positive square root. Yes, according to the formula, we are generating the column here. So, x minus x bar, what is the value of x? 90. 90 minus 101.33, if you do it, you will get minus 11.33. So similarly, you have to follow up the same for the rest of the columns and rest of the values. And here, the value which we have obtained here for this column, we have to find out the square. Yes, 11.33, when you square it, you will get 128.37. Similarly, for 8.67, 1.33, you have to find the square for each and every values which you have here. Then finally, you have to find the sum, that is the overall average of all these values. When we add all these values, we will get 938 summation. And here also we will be finding out, you will be getting 0.03. So this is what is most important. We are going to find out for the positive square root. So this 938 is what we are going to work with. And based on this, we are going to substitute in the formula. So x minus x bar the whole square, in this place we are going to apply 938, substitute it, and the value of n is 9, which is the total number of values. So when you divide it, you will get 104.22. So now this is the value which we have got, and finally we have to find out the square root. We have just found out for this formula which is inside the square root, but now we have to apply the square root after finding out this. So when you apply the square root for 104.22, you will be getting 10.2 centimeter. That is the actual value of the standard deviation for this tabular data. Clear? So the standard deviation of attendance of 9 students is 10.2 centimeter. So this is how we have to calculate the standard deviation. And here they have given an example, a problem statement, and they have asked you to choose a suitable statistical method for each and every problem statements. Like if the teacher wants to know about the average performance of the whole class in a test, so if she wants to find the average, which particular method, the statistical method we will use, we will be using the mean, right? And if you want to compare heights of residents of two cities, here which can we use, a range function we can apply here. Similarly, if you want to compare income of residents of two cities, so similarly you have to find out which statistical method we can apply for each and every problem statement. Then summary. So what is meant by a data? So whatever we have discussed so far, that they have given the summary. So data, if you refer to, it is an unorganized fact, that is a raw information. And the data can be of two types, which is structured or unstructured. So where will we store data, everything after processing it? We can store in the storage devices like hard disk, SSD, CD, DVD, pen drive. So many different storage devices are available nowadays. And the data processing cycle, if you consider, it involves 3 different stages: input, processing, and output, like IPO cycle. And finally, the data which has been processed will be summarized. So summarizing the data, to summarize the data, we use the statistical techniques like mean, median, mode, range, and standard deviation. So these statistical techniques we will apply on the data to summarize it, to find out the proper information or to get the proper result. So mean means it is the average of the given values. Median is the mid value, and mode represents the frequency of the number of times the data has occurred, and range represents the difference between the maximum and minimum values. When it comes to standard deviation, it is a positive square root of the average of square difference of each value from the mean. So these are the concepts which are related to understanding data.
So we have come to the end of the chapter, and I hope you understood the session, and we'll meet in the next class with a new chapter. Thank you.